But if you are a child of God, you will be sincere. The word today needs uh, the world today needs to see sincerity among believers and needs truth among believers. Paul says, let's have sincerity and truth in the church there in Corinth. And you see, the church there was really insincere. They had gross immorality in their midst. They thought they could get by with this, and they pretended that everything was all right. They were pretending that they were telling the truth and living the truth when actually they were not. That concludes that section. Now let's move on to section verses 9 through 11. Verse 9, I wrote unto you in an epistle not to accompany with fornicators, yet not altogether with the fornicators of this world, or with the covetous, or exhorters, or with adulterers, for then must he needs go out of the world. But now I have written unto you not to keep company, if any man that is called a brother be a fornicator, or covetous, or an adulterer, or railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner. I'm sorry, it's not exhorter, it's an extortioner. With such and one do not eat. With such an one no, not to eat. Paul had previously written to them and had condemned these sins. Corinth was a city given over to immorality. There were 1,000 priestesses at the temple of Venus or Aphrodite who were nothing in the world but harlots. They were prostitutes, and the whole city was given over to this immorality in the name of religion. Now, here they are permitting this immoral man to come into their fellowship and to eat with them. They patted him on the back and accepted him as one of their own when they knew he was living in sin. The church in Corinth thought they could drop down to the level of the world. Does the world today think it can drop down to the immorality of the world? I must have read that wrong. Does the church today think it can drop down to the immorality of the world and get away with it? My friend, the church today has lost its power. I am speaking of the church in general. Thank God there are still wonderful churches left, churches that stand out like beacon lights across the land, Bible churches that stand for the Word of God. The other day, I heard a young preacher who took a stand when they tried to introduce hard rock music into his church. It meant that he lost several hundred of his members who walked out. I thank God for a preacher like that who, with intestinal fortitude, most men today are compromising and shutting their eyes and letting the world come in. The church has lost its power. And impure church is a paralyzed church, and a pure church is a powerful church. That is true for the individual also. Now, Paul says this does not apply to fornication only. He also applies it to covetousness. How about a deacon in a church who has sticky fingers? How about the man in the church who has his hand on a lot of money? Paul also includes idolaters, those who are fooling around with other religions. I heard about the leading officer of the church who walked down and joined a cult. I am telling you that the Word of God teaches that a little infection in the church must be dealt with, or else it is going to corrupt and wreck the church. A little leaven